Hello, everybody. I'm Mark,
And I'm Rob.
and this is Mark and Rob's Sports Showdown. Today, we're going to have a real showdown because we don't agree on everything about last night's game. This is the day after the big LSU Connecticut game, which we both predicted would be like 15 to 20 million. We don't have the viewership ratings out yet, but we should get them. And I think now that we have the South Carolina Iowa matchup, you're going to have over 20 million people, and I think it will outdraw the men's for the first time in history. If last year's ratings are any indication, they only had 15 million when Connecticut was in it. So we'll see. What do you think?
That's good. That's good. I think that's great.
So great for women's basketball. If it happens, the men's could still get higher viewership, but I think the women's are going to get over 20 million. And the men, I'm not sure they're going to get 20 million, but I don't know. Maybe Purdue and Connecticut's, if they both win, will be an interesting matchup. But maybe it'll be interesting if North Carolina State gets in. I don't know. Or Alabama. Who knows? But we'll see. So we already talked about the men's in another video. We're just going to talk about the women's tonight. Last night, Iowa squeaked out a 2-point victory over Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the game, there was a call that some people think was controversial. I don't think it was. I think it was the right call. What do you think, Rob?
I don't think it was controversial. I just think that it was like it could be different views. I think it was like a 50-50, depending on where you're from, what you're thinking about, and how you viewed the call.
So you're changing your tune from last night when you text me.
Well, I watched the video.
It was a BS foul.
At first, I was outraged and I was looking at it, but then I was watching the video, and the thing that did my factor for where I believe I had to change my opinion about it is that she kind of leaned into her, and that did cause that was an offensive foul, and I could see why. That's why Gino reacted the way he was, because that's the way I would have reacted. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She didn't have to do that. So that's after I watched that video, I was like, okay.
I didn't think that was the main part of the call. Like when I first saw it, of course, I didn't really notice it in live action, but I saw the replay. They had it up close and slow motion, and you can see the slight elbow and the slight lean in, but you can't see. You can't really see the step or what she did before that. So after I went out last night, I went to a bar after the game, and I came back and watched ESPN with Scott Van Pelt, and they showed the replays. And I could see her step in front of Gabby Marshall at the last second, which is 100% against the rules. You have to give that person at least a step or two to be able to not have to go through you to get around the pick. And she did that, and then she leaned into her. So for me, that was just a clear, normal, everyday pick foul. I don't care that it's the end of the game, because I feel you should play call the game the same as in the first quarter as in the fourth quarter.
Well, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't the deciding factor of the game, But I think also when you're fighting through that pick, that's what you're taught to do, fight through that pick. Her movement of her left foot, like you said, maybe at the last, that wasn't the thing for me. It was when she kind of stuck that elbow out. Because I think if I was refereeing, I wouldn't have called it even though she made that slight movement. I think the player kind of sold it too. She did the kind of little flop, the LeBron flop there.
There was a little bit of acting by Gabby Marshall, but she's a lot smaller than is that Lia Edwards? Edwards. So Gabby Marshall, but for me, it was more the step, because when I watched the replay, it was a big step, and it was right into her at the last second. So Gabby Marshall had no chance of stopping or going around her.
Yeah, I was more into, like I said, the more of the just a little lean on the elbow. That's what kind of got me. The stepping, because if you're playing best, sometimes you do that little slide, and most of the times the referees do not really call that. But I think they called it the way I think they did was with because she lowered her elbow, got the elbow in there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called the offensive foul on her.
I thought it was a combination of the two, but I thought the step was more. Now, Rob played basketball in high school and college, and he coached. Did you also? Were you ever a ref, Rob?
Yeah, I refereed also. Yes.
Okay, and your dad was a ref. You said,
yes,
right? Okay, so just so you know her background. By the way, in this video, we'll let you know we both went to high school together, and he was a year ahead of me, and he played on the basketball team. I was actually I played on an 8th grade basketball team, and then I wrestled because I was too short. 6'2" as opposed to 5'6.5" at the time. All right. So anyway, so that's our perspective on the call. I know that the Connecticut fans will 100% disagree with it, and some other people who are more neutral might even disagree with it. But
yeah, I mean,
I was disappointed from ESPN because Scott Van Pelt was on a mission to cover this foul. First, he covered it with Andrea Carter. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, I when I was watching after I watched the replay, Scott Van Pelt seemed to be on a mission to show that it was a bad call or controversial call, because first he had Andrea Carter on, and I don't think has any favoritism because she loves Caitlin Clark, and she went to Tennessee, and Tennessee's like the arch rival of Connecticut. But I just think she's wrong. She said it was the call sucked, and just as we just explained, at least I thought it was a clear foul. And then like I said, I don't think you should call play any differently at the end of the game. If it's in the first quarter, it's a foul. In the fourth quarter, it's a foul. Otherwise, that just gives the defender open license to commit a foul if you just let him play, like some people say.
Do you think it was controversial because of the timing of the game, or because of what maybe the factor that was?
I don't know. To me, it was a clear foul, so it must be the timing of the game. But some people think it wasn't enough for a foul. Someone on Facebook who played basketball in high school and college, he didn't like the call, and I don't think he's anti Iowa or anti Clark. So I think it's a combination of the two. But to me, I don't know. I
think the word was controversial means that it really decide the outcome of the game. I don't think so. It really does. More like I like the post game interview with Beckers when she said, "Hey, it was a foul call. That was not the main reason why we lost the game," which is true.
She was very honest and humble, because I think like I said, we'll get to that, but I thought she played like a below average game for her. Not a bad game by any means, but yeah, she was it's always like that. One call doesn't decide a game. There's a million calls and a million plays in a game. So
yeah, like I said, I've coached, and there are some games where there were that one factor, like maybe it was a foul shot or like. But I mean, this one was. I mean, they still had a chance to win the game because the great Caitlin Clark, she missed the foul shot, and if they had gotten that rebound, they still could have called a timeout.
That's right.
It was only only down by 2. So
Sydney got the rebound. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but Sydney
I mean, if the ball game still was not over even after that call. So I mean, if Connecticut had done their thing and boxed out and got the rebound, they could have called timeout, and then they would have had a chance for another shot, either win the game or tie the game. So yeah, I don't. As far as controversial, I would just say it was a call. It was a factor in the game. I'll just call it.
That's just what the newspaper headlines said, like Yahoo and ESPN. Yeah. Anyway, on ESPN, Scott Van Pelt interviewed Andrea Carter, and she said the call sucked. And then he interviewed Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi sitting next to each other. I guess they were covering on ESPN2.
Yes.
I didn't watch it on that, but and of course they didn't like the call. It's no surprise there. But then Diana Taurasi said it was a lousy call, especially in a situation where it doesn't make any difference. And I just shrugged my shoulders and said, how can it not make any difference? It's different between an open shot and a covered shot. It
could have been like a pick and roll. If she was doing the pick and roll because Edwards was helping win the game, so it could have been like a pick and roll thing where she could have rolled to the basket and then gave her the ball inside, and she might have gotten fouled or she might have made the basket. So,
well, I don't understand why Scott Van Pelt didn't say, well, it did make a difference on the play. It would have been a contested shot instead of a wide open shot. I don't know why he didn't say that. He seemed to be on a mission to say that it was a bad call. So that's his opinion. Like I said,
I mean, I was like that last night. I was like when I texted you, when I was a horrible call, it was terrible. And I guess when you play basketball, I mean, depends on when you play. You want to. I mean, even though it is like you said, it's the rules. It's a foul, but sometimes you want to just can't you just keep playing? And when I refed also, I'm like, oh, is that foul really going to really give the advantage to the, like you said, the defender or the other team?
Well, moving pick always does, because it takes the defender out of the play, and the other person gets an uncontested shot now. So that's why I think. But there is another argument that sometimes people make about that. It was like, oh, well, they didn't call it all game, and now they suddenly call it out of the blue, which wasn't the case because they had already had 2 or 3 pick calls against them already, Connecticut. Even Gino said that in the post-game interview. He said, well, we had 3 or 4 pick calls, and they didn't have any. I guess we have to learn how to do picks better or something like that.
Well, he's correct.
Better.
He's correct. I mean,
Right.
He's being sarcastic, but I mean, yeah. So, like I said, when she did that, his in his reaction was like, what are you doing? It wasn't like it was a bad call type reaction. It was more, to me, it was more like, oh shoot, why did she do that?
My point was that it didn't come out of the blue. Like let's say they don't call pass interference the entire game, and then they call, like in football, and they call it on the last play of the game. Like, okay, well, you're letting them do that all game. You can't suddenly call pass interference. That wasn't the case. They called a couple on Connecticut before, letting them know you guys are doing illegal picks, and it just happened to do another one. So, anyways, I know some people, feel free to make some comments down below and tell us that you think we're wrong. I'm sure Connecticut fans or anti-Clark haters are all going to say that it was a bad call, but I don't think so. I thought it was a straightforward call, and it would have been unfair to Iowa if they didn't call it because Page would have had a wide open shot.
Well, that's what they're saying. They were kind of comparing this. Now, if I, that's what I mean. Oh, if Iowa had done that, would have been the same. Would the Iowa fans have been the same way? Like, yeah, of course they would be. But I mean, they didn't do it. So,
yeah, I will admit I am a big Caitlin Clark fan, but I am really trying as humanly as possible to be as non-biased as possible when evaluating this foul call because it could have determined the game. I mean, it doesn't mean Page is going to hit the shot. It's a 3-point shot. So we'll see. Anyways, let's talk about the stars of the game first. Hannah Stokey stood out, obviously. She was 9 for 12 at 23 points. And they wouldn't have won without her.
Right. Yes. She played a really nice game. Very, very solid game. Actually, I think she was the best player on the floor, actually.
I think she was. Edwards had a real nice game, despite her moving pick at the end.
It's about the foul trouble she was getting into. And that's the whole thing with Connecticut. They were hanging in there, and they had foul trouble, and they still hung in there.
Right. And then Nika Mule played great defense on Clark. I thought she got away with a little bit of grabbing. And I think Debbie Marshall played great defense on Beckers.
Without grabbing, you're saying?
I didn't see Gabby Marshall grabbing Beckers. I think she just runs around really close to the person and gets in the way because she's quick and she's 5'9".
So you don't think that she even she never touched her, or maybe
I didn't say that. I said I don't think she grabbed her.
Impeded her.
I think
impeded her way of moving. Huh?
I think she plays cleaner defense than Mule did, or the young lady from West Virginia in game number 2 of Iowa.
So with Mule guarding Clark, how would you? So you're guarding Clark. Are you going to just guard her like just be aggressive, or are you going to be kind of passive aggressive on her?
I don't believe in purposely breaking the rules when I play a sport.
Well, there's no breaking the rules. You're just guarding. You're just guarding her.
When you're grabbing somebody, you're purposely faking the rules. So I would just play. Michael Jordan didn't grab people when he played defense. He played great defense and didn't grab people. He might have fouled people, but he didn't grab them.
Of course he did. You kidding me?
I didn't see.
I
remember him pushing hands off him when people were grabbing him, and I remember him. He fouled people. Of course, he reached in. He wasn't that type of defender. He wasn't he wasn't a physical defender. He did quick reach-ins like that.
Of course he was physical. You have on defense. You have to be physical. That's even in pro football when the guy. Well, now they've made it so lame where you can't even touch the guy coming off the line. You
have to be physical.
Bump and run. You said the bump and run. Now you can't do that. But I mean, in basketball, there's going to be clutching. There's going to be holding. There'll be elbowing. I'm trying not to let you score. I'm trying to not. So
in the post is different than perimeter of defense. And Michael Jordan was a guard. He was a perimeter defense. I think that results in less physical play than it does in the post. And that was type of defense. But be that as may.
Yeah, it's a different type of thing. You're denying the ball, and the guy said, but they're trying not to let the guy get the ball. And if they cut back, if they're going through, you're going to give the guy a little bump and stuff. You're not going to just let him glide through when he's going through the key.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be slightly physical. I'm just saying there's a limit to some point where you're purposely breaking the rules. It's just not my style. I would try to play as tight as defenses. I played ultimate frisbee for 40 years. I never
that's
it's the same thing.
That's a different game, man.
It's the same as covering someone in football and a pass. And I never grabbed the guy I was covering. Never in my life. I never touched him. I just stayed as close to him as possible. And I think that's the proper way to play defense.
Ultimate frisbee is totally different from
it's not a non-contact sport, just like basketball. That's not true. It's not true.
There's not.
The rules
are
the same. The rules are the same. You can't touch them.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, both sports are supposed to be non-contact, but there is contact.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the stars, the superstars of the game, who were supposed to be the stars of the game. But I think Caitlin Clark played an average game at best. And I think that Paige Buecher's played a below average game.
Like I said, I can't believe how you could say that. They both had the same type of stats.
They didn't. Right. They didn't have the same type of stats.
They had. She had 4. Clark had 4 turnovers. Buecher's had 4 turnovers. They shot about the same as far as from the field goals and 3-pointers. They basically canceled each other out. Okay. So to say that, wait a minute, like I said, Caitlin's averaging what? She averages 30 points a game. There's double.
Well, but she averages irrelevant to
that's not irrelevant. You're saying the below and the average. So if Buecher's had like the same stats as he has, but she's and Caitlin's the best player.
She didn't. Listen, Buecher's is known for being a better defender than Clark. She had 0 steals, 0 blocks, and she's also known for actually having a better assist to turnover ratio. And she had 3 assists and 4 turnovers. She had a negative assist to turn ratio. Clark had 7 assists, and she should have had 12.
Well, should have, could have.
Her teammates missed half the layups in the first half and
so that doesn't. So that factors into where the average then. So I mean that's irrelevant. So
she had 9 rebounds, and Buecher I think had 4.
I mean, yeah, but I mean that's still that's 3 difference. So I mean there's
4. 9 and 4 is 5.
Yeah, just so they essentially just cancel each other out.
I don't think either one of them played well.
No, neither one of them played well. But I would just, if you're going to say Buecher's played below average, then you have to say that Caitlin played below average too, because I
said average at best. That's suggesting she played.
And you can't factor in that. Well, if they had made their shots, they didn't make the shots, so her assist wasn't that high.
Well, I don't agree with that at all. If the passes are there, the passes are there.
You got to make the shot. If they don't make it, then she doesn't get the assist. So that's the way it works.
I agree, but that you do factor that in. Okay. I'll give you an example, Rob. You're completely wrong on this. If I throw 10 passes and my teammates only put one out of 10 layups in, and the next game, exact same passes, they put 9 out of 10, I would record 8 more assists, and I played exactly the same. So to say you can't factor in when they miss layups on a pass in terms of how many assists you got is completely wrong.
So my question to you is: so those 1 for 10 passes that your teammates didn't make, now would they say you had a bad ball game because of that?
No. My point was you would get more assists if your teammates didn't miss the shots.
Right. That factors into
how you played exactly the same, because it has no factor on whether they made the shot or not. The passes were the same.
Well, if they make the shot, you get the assist. It's like if I came down the court and I passed the person the 3-point line and they make the 3-point line, there's my assist. So I don't
know how this is over.
One pass.
Maybe it's going over your head.
I think it's going because you never played. You just think that, or like, she had this and she had that, but that's part of the fact. You got to factor in if they miss the shots. That also factors into whether you have a good game or not.
If she had 10 assists in a game and they made every layup, I would say, she had 10 assists, but that really didn't have 10 assists because she got lucky that they made 10 out of 10 layups when she normally.
No, it's not lucky.
Her game wasn't as good as the 10 assists. I would say the same thing. You can factor into whether or not the nice passes that you make, your teammates converted in terms of evaluating how a person played. I don't understand how you don't see that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're saying there's no factor. You just kind of.
I said it is a factor. I said it's a factor. I think you can't just look on the number of assists.
Right, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You can't look at the number of assists and then say like, okay, she had an average game or below average game. That's what
I don't. I look at the assists and I also watch the game and say to myself, okay, how good were the passes? Were they there? And should they been converted? And that's what I said from the beginning.
I don't know. I think you kind of changed it a little, but that's okay.
All right. Well, we're going to agree to disagree, but I think you're not seeing this through properly.
Well, I think you're trying to lose logic, but it doesn't. In certain things, logic doesn't come into factor there.
No, I told you I would evaluate it, adjust it downwards too. If they hit 12 out of 12 layups, that means she got more assists than she normally would have gotten because they played well.
Yeah, I'm just saying that to say that Becker's had a below average and then Caitlin had an average when she's averaging 30 points a game and double figures in assists.
I said average at best, Rob. I don't know why
you're saying that. No, I'm comparing. You're comparing Becker's, saying, oh, she had a below average, and Clark has an average
because
game.
Becker's has been averaging 24 points in the NCAA tournament.
And Clark's averaging over 30 points. She had a 41-point game. She only got 21.
Yeah.
What happened? Why did she take over? You said she had this Michael Jordan mentality. Where was that in the fourth quarter? You'll say she's tired, but you don't think Michael Jordan was tired in the fourth quarter?
Probably every fourth quarter he ever played, he was tired.
So then where's that Michael Jordan mentality? Or most people are like, oh, if you're the best player, okay, I got to take over this game.
She didn't take over the game. I don't think she took over the game.
So that was below average. So to me, that wasn't average. That's below average.
All right, so she's below average. That average at best includes the possibility that it's average.
See, oh, okay.
I mean, below average. Yeah, average at best, which means maybe it's below average. I think she played better than Bucher. I didn't want to say Bucher played a lousy game because she didn't. She had some good threes. She made some nice plays, but she didn't come up big in the fourth quarter at all.
Like I said,
neither one of them did.
I mean, I agree with it. Both of them. To me, they were not a non-factor, but they weren't the main thing in the game. It was the one player for Iowa who was the star who stood out more than they did, which was people were like, whoa. And that's why I thought the game was talking about the game. We're talking about averages in games. I thought that game was below average.
Well, it wasn't a pretty game.
No, it was not. I mean, Caitlin could have did a little more by pulling up on some jump shots. That would have been a lot better to get her going,
For who?
Caitlin.
Yeah, she doesn't like to take 2-point jump shots.
Yeah, she should work.
That's not, even though she can hit them, for some reason she doesn't like to take them. I don't understand why, because I've seen her hit them on a consistent basis.
Yeah,
she likes to drive to the basket and try to get a foul or get a layup, and likes to take threes and likes to take logo threes. But she doesn't do, like when she drives to the basket, as the announcer pointed out last game, she doesn't do the little pull-up jumper or do a floater. Mm-hmm. And she just does one or two. She either drives to the basket or passes it. And
if she worked on the pull-up jump shot, or even that floater, she's got a nice little touch in that floating game. She'd be unstoppable.
Like Trey in the NBA.
Yeah. Hopefully, like I said, she's still young. She'll work on her game. She'll work on it. But she's still the best. She's still the best.
Yeah, she's had 3 mediocre games and 2 great games, in my opinion. So you can say they're below mediocre. I don't care, but they're 3. She's had 3 mediocre games. Each of them that she had really good defense against her, and some of the defense was, to me, not legal defense because she was getting held. But that's my opinion. Okay. All right, so we got a game coming up on Sunday, which looks like it's going to be the dream matchup that they wanted. Now, keep in mind, when these brackets came out, people said, "Oh, they got too hard a bracket, and this wasn't fair." But the way that it works when they do the seeding, they group them like 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, and then like 13 through 16, and they go through it like a snake situation. But if 2 teams are in the same conference and they're both seeded in the top 4, they cannot be in the same bracket. That's like rule number 1. So what happens is instead of having 1 and 8, sometimes you end up with 1 and 7 and 2 and 8 because they have to switch the 2 teams around. And that's how the bracket ended up being tough. They got unlucky because of the way they didn't think LSU was in the top 8.
Right.
Which
right.
I think maybe that was wrong, but that's
because
they had lost some games when Angel Reese wasn't there earlier in the year. Uh-huh. They probably would have, if she hadn't missed those games, they probably would have been they would have had a better record, and then they would have been
right. Same thing with Connecticut. If they had those 4 players, they probably would be in the finals and probably winning it.
Same thing. Connecticut had to adjust to the injuries, they lost 5 players. They
Yeah.
weren't starters, but they lost 5 players to injuries. So they had adjusted that. So they were both better than their seeds. So
Mm.
anyways, but they ended up with great matchups because they had Juju Watkins play Paige Hunter, and they had in that, what is that? I guess in the Elite 8 for Connecticut USC. That was a great matchup, even though I didn't think the guards, didn't seem to be exciting matchup I was expecting.
Mm.
But then they had LSU, which is obviously with Iowa was a dream matchup for a rematch from last year's championship. And now you had the Connecticut. You had paid the 2 best players and 2 best guards covering each other. Well, they didn't cover each other, but playing against each other with Iowa and Connecticut. And now you got an undefeated South Carolina team who was undefeated last year and lost to Iowa, getting their revenge game against Iowa. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, I think South Carolina is going to win the game because they have a better bench and their guards are very quick, good hands defense, and they're number 1 in the country in block shots. The way Iowa has those nice little layups are not going to happen. Because I was watching the South Carolina game and the North Carolina State guards were driving to the basket thinking they're all uncontested, and all of a sudden, boom! Caruso, the other girls just blocked their shots. I was like, whoa, okay, you're not getting no layups here.
Well, Cardozo was unstoppable last game, and they didn't have a good enough defensive woman to stop her. I'm not sure Iowa does either. I mean, Hannah Stokey is only 6'2". Cardozo is 6'7". That's a problem. Right. Yeah. And even if Stokey gets in foul trouble, the person coming off the bench, O'Grady, is only 6'2" also.
Right.
She's not that experienced, really, especially in pressure games like that.
I'm just wondering because Iowa plays mostly zone, and then, like I said, if South Carolina's got better outside shooters, if they start hitting those and if they get the ball inside, it's going to be a long day for Iowa.
Yeah, I thought last year was going to be, and I was wrong.
Me too. Yeah.
So of course, it's all new team for as people know that South Carolina has lost all 5 starters,
right?
And they replenished it with I guess transfer portal with and also with recruits. And Cardozo was on the team last year, but she didn't even start.
Yeah, Cardozo came from Syracuse. She was a starter at Syracuse.
Right. So I think Iowa will have a real problem with her, but she did sprain her ankle. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. It's only going to be 48 hours later. We'll see if her ankle stiffens up, whether it's sore or not. She's not a small person. I'm not that she's not in any way fat. I'm just saying I don't know her exact weight. I know she's 6'7", but she's, it's much more pressure on her ankle the more you weigh. Right. So we'll see what happens.
And we both have gone through ankle injuries back in the day. So, and we're just a tad older. But I think now with the technology, it's not like when we were growing up where you just throw the ace bandage on it and put some ice on it and elevate. They have other factors like ultrasound, laser ultrasound, and things like that to help on that and with rest. So yeah, we'll see. She did come back and still play a good game. So,
well, I think she's the key. Stopping her is the key. If she has a huge game, then Clark will have to have a 40-point game. But here, so my prediction, like a month and a half ago, when I was talking to a friend of mine, he asked, we were talking about Kate and Clark and I, when I said, he goes, "Do you think they're going to win this year?" I said, "No, I think South Carolina is going to win. I'm just hoping that she's going to win because I like her a lot. I love watching her play, and I don't like the haters saying stupid things that aren't even true about her.
I agree.
And all this stuff about she's not great if she doesn't win a championship, or she can't even be considered for the greatest of all time if she wasn't in a championship, which isn't true. There's no other player in the history of college basketball that could drag those 2 Iowa teams to the national finals. No other player in history could have done that.
Right, like you said, put her on another team like I said, South Carolina, Connecticut, even LSU. She would have back.
She would have won 5 championships.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. She would have been
really.
She would have won 5.
She would have done 5. She would have won 5 championships with that place. That's what I think. So, I think that's a silly. I think she's already established herself as the greatest. The last 2 years, anyway, she's played at a higher level than any other woman in the history of college basketball. Even though accomplishment-wise or team-wise, she doesn't have that to say. And I think whether she wins on Sunday or not, to me, she's still the greatest college player.
I totally agree with you on that.
And I'm a huge Cheryl Miller fan. I was old enough to remember watch her play, in the Olympics. I watched her play. I went back and watched her college championship games, and I watched her in the Goodwill games when they upset Russia for the first time.
Right.
And she was 1.5 times better than everybody out, and she was light years ahead of everybody in terms of playing ability. And her jump shot was like she had a jump shot like a people shoot today, like a man. She had like a man. She had great form and stuff like that.
I told you the story how she used to make Reggie Miller, her brother, cry when they played. So, yeah, she was very good.
I think a lot of people would be happy to see Reggie Miller cry.
Yeah, being a Knicks fan, I definitely would love to see him.
But people found him annoying.
I wish I had pictures of that.
In fact, she says he's annoying, but he used to make her cry. And he the one day he had the 40 points and he came home, he was bragging, and turns out she got 105 and he just like wilted. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, that's my feeling about that. But so my feeling now is after she had an off game last year, you want to call it below average, you can call it whatever you want. I think she's due for another great game. Like I said, she's only had 2 great games and 3 mediocre games. And I think she will be possessed like she was against LSU. And I'm changing my, let me finish. I'm changing my pick. Okay. I've been saying all along that Iowa was going to lose to South Carolina. I even said that when the brackets were made, that they were losing in the finals. I'm going with the upset.
Okay.
Going with Iowa. Well,
do you think it's really an upset, or?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, if the betting line, I just go by the betting line in terms of whether it's an upset. I don't go by necessarily what I think, but the betting line, they're going to be favored. I didn't look at today's paper yet. I mean, I didn't look at today's paper. I feel like I'm talking 40 years ago. I didn't look at the internet for the.
What's that?
All right, well, let's look it up. And it was started out at 4.5 South Carolina favorite, and now it's 5.5. So I'm going with the upset. That to me is a clear upset.
Are you a betting man? Are you going to?
No, I'm not going to bet. I'm just saying I'm picking an upset. I told you in predictions I don't do crazy upset picks because I think your chances are so slim. And like I said, the object to do is for predictions is to get it right. And I think
is it a heart prediction, or is it?
I don't think so. I think Caitlin's due for a great game, and if she does, she gets a great game, and if she plays a great game, Iowa will win.
Well, like I said, like we've been saying, she's the type of player who could do that. With the way she plays, that's how great she is. And for all these haters, she's that great where she could carry her team with assists, scoring, rebounding. She could carry that team to an upset victory.
Right. There's no player that I have ever seen in women's college basketball, and maybe I can't compare it with the WNBA. It's not really fair, but who's carried a team like she does, who makes her teammates play at a higher level than they're actually normally would without her. And that's why she's the best player. But we'll see what happens. She needs to have a great game, and then Stokey's going to have not get in foul trouble. We'll see what happens. But
knowing Dawn Staley, who was watching that game, she's like, okay, of course, coaches, we steal from each other. And she's going to be like, okay, so he put this person on her. Okay.
Yep. And she had that advantage last year too, and it didn't do her any good. They lost.
Well, that's last year. We're talking about this year.
So. I know, I understand that. And that's one of the reasons I was not predicting Iowa to beat South Carolina, was because I think it's too much to ask to beat them 2 years in a row. But I think Caitlin Clark is going to be in another mindset.
Yeah, but like I said, you so now you're going to play her again. So you're like, okay, it's a little revenge then. But like I said, being a coach, you're like, okay. And then you watched the game last night. Okay, so this is how we can get her off.
They're both going to have a lot at stake because South Carolina got upset last year, and Iowa was actually favored in the finals after they upset South Carolina, and so they feel like they missed their opportunity there too.
Right.
And Dawn Staley's a great coach, so I'm sure she's going to come up with something to try to slow her down.
Oh yeah.
So I'm telling you, I told you, like I said, this is like a 51% pick for me. I was picking South Carolina until last night. I thought about it, and I said she's due for a great game again.
Okay. Well, so if she had a great performance, would you still predict it? If she had dropped like 41 or 30 something, would you still?
No, I might. I don't know how it would feel. I don't know how it would feel. I would feel even more confident. Yeah, I might feel she's due for an off game because that would have been 3 great games in a row.
Well, I think you probably would have felt even more confident than even you are now, because you're saying she's going to have a great game, even though because she had a kind of an off game.
No matter how she played the game before, she's always capable of a great game. So I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. I mean, she could go off and just take over the game and just win it on her own. Yeah,
we'll see. Like I said, so I'm picking. I'm going to pick Iowa. I'm going with.
Okay, I got South Carolina.
All right. So that's it for today. We're going to make another video for you soon, and please like and subscribe, and make some comments down below, relevant comments that aren't personal insults. Otherwise, they will be deleted if they're not. Other than that, if you want suggestions for any topics that you want covered, or your opinions down below, I'm sure some people are going to not like the foul call, and they're going to let me know that we were wrong about that.
Yeah, so let us know how you feel. Let us know. See if whose side you're on.
And if you think South Carolina is clearly going to win, no problem. Tell me that down below, because I'm not going to strongly disagree with you on that. I'm hoping I'm not going with my heart. I think I'm just changing my pick because I just think she's due for.
All right, that's reasonable.
We'll see. I got to pick upsets once in a while. If I pick the favorites all the time, what fun is that?
Right, I know.
I picked all the favorites in the men's, and I picked most of all the favorites so far in the women's, and of course the women's have fewer upset than the
men's. The women's have fewer upset, but the men, my challenge was shot first day. So, all right, y'all.
I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson in the NFL playoffs when I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, and I didn't pick them over Dallas, and I should have. So, anyways, okay, in an upset, that would have been an upset if you don't follow football, which I'm sure you do. All right. So, anyways, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
All right. Yep. Peace out.